So, okay. So, very good morning to everyone. On behalf of NIFT Bhubaneswar, Ayappan Rastogi, Assistant Professor in Department of Fashion Communication, take this opportunity to welcome all our guest speakers and participants to this webinar, Avalokan, Generating Livelihood Through Handloom Entrepreneurship. And today we have the privilege to have with us alumni and entrepreneurs from the field of handloom and handicraft, who shall be reflecting the theme of this webinar today. And now I would like to request Kathy Shekhar to please introduce our guest speakers.
A very good morning to everyone. We have our alumni and entrepreneurs today, and we'll be starting with Mr. Pranav Panda. Talking a bit about label Utpatti, they value their weavers as their family because they have been to their homes, shared stories, and sat down on the same floor trying to revive handloom. Started by Pranav Panda, Priyanka Behra, and Kuldeep Das. I invite Pranav Panda to speak about his experience and his brand.
Uh, Hello everyone. First of all, I'm so thankful that I'm cordially invited to this session, and I'm really so thankful to my institute. First of all, whatever I learned and whatever the talent, the knowledge I'm utilizing in our startup, everything is learned. I learned from the campus itself, and thank you so much to each and every faculties of my institute. Really very thankful. So in the behalf of team Utpatti, um, my co-founder also Kuldeep and Priyanka, I'm also very thankful to them that without them uh, this startup won't come so far. uh, so I will tell. Uh, First of all, I just want to share a little story that why I came with this startup idea. That why we planned to start this Utpatti. Uh, Throughout the 3 years of my fashion design course career in NIFT, we studied the craft related subjects like CVPT, craft development, and everything. Those are the whole the classes and everything. It was just not like to go to the rural sector and get your fabric and make something and just deliver the assignment. What did me and Priyanka basically, whenever we used to go to the craft centers and all, but though we are proper Odia, the ground level students from the Odisha itself, so we are like to understand what exactly their passion is. It's like uh, we developed in a culture. Our parents taught us something. We are not lacking that behind while we are going approach in our coming life, right? So that's why we thought people are slowly leaving their passion and approaching some other occupation to earn a good amount of money. Recently I had traveled to a district called Subarnapur in Odisha, and what I studied there is a artisan only, that a very old person, and he was the only person like who was weaving. Then I just asked him why there is no other members in your like family are not doing, matlab, not taking this craftsman do further. And the person, he just told me this. He told me one sentence that really touched my heart. They told he told that if I will if my son will practice the same thing which I'm doing now, then nobody will give their daughter to my son hand. And I felt so disheartened. I was like, uh, this, there is something lacking. There is actually something lacking in our craft sector, and it's like not like Odisha is known for like we have 14, 15 numbers of like textiles who are like completely rich and like globally known also. So like how can somebody treat? How can they feel like it's a lowly job? So our main focus is the artisans are not shouldn't be treated as just an artisan. They are the artists. Whatever that they're creating, that is a form of art. It's like from ancient age they are like practicing, and that is really very important to bring to a urban street. And mainly, I will tell you one thing. Odisha is like completely it's rich hand woven and like all clusters are like full of like textiles and all very uniquely woven and everything. Then we thought in that way why that beautiful like transformation won't come to a Delhi wear apparel. Why can't we just uh, bring it to to the urban street, like people who are like going through we are going to any sort of like shop for shopping purpose, and we are searching ki, these are the print, these are the new pattern, these are the new cuts. Then why can't we create like through these artisans? So we started thinking what we can do. So that's why like we started going to the the people, and we are teaching them that like, how the color themes can be done, how the color scheme they can develop, what are the motifs, how can we literally start with them, and like we like taught them what is EOD, what is POD, what like how you can bring a motif from a visual to on the textiles. Then the same then slowly we are working now with 25 families of the textile sectors, and now they feel good like whenever we go to them and we teach them, they are so eager ki, yes, the sir is coming and they will teach us something, we will create something. And we are also opened our platform to showcase not only just Utpatti products, it is something the artisan who is making. So the same thing, and now like we can't just redevelop beautiful trendy patterns, and it is like that slowly the people who are like now like getting aware about slow ethical sustainable fashion. This is the perfect time to promote the importance of ethical fashion to the young generation. Like throughout the NIFT, like NIFT students, whenever I talk to them, people are like so much into like glamour line, like a very fancy and fast fashion thing, but very few people are there who are really choosing the handloom part of the thing. But if we are not like recollect everything together, then we are like slowly everything will vanish. So that's why these are like a few stories like I have like with my startup what I have thought and everything. So and the modern consumers are like more conscious and responsible about their purchase before purchasing. So they are so showing a rapid growing inclination towards the sustainability in every manner possible. So it is a good time to like promote the handloom and hand woven textiles and all sustainable products through. And this is the generation we will start. So and further, the coming generation will understand what is the point. So I would like to thank everyone for giving me an opportunity to say. I'm really glad. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. That was very insightful. Now we'll be moving to our next speaker, uh, talking about Someda Khadi. It was founded by Vrushali Vinod. Someda Khadi believes in women empowerment, and their 100% organization is run by I invite Vrushali Vinod to speak about her experience as an entrepreneur.
लॅपटॉपचं चार्जर नाही ते रूमच्या स्पीकरचे ते तुझं मास्क पण
Thank you all. Thank you, Nift Bhuvneshwar, for this
येणार
opportunity.
बीजे
And special thanks to Gautam sir, who asked me to join this. And thanks again. Happy Handloom day. Happy National Handloom Day to everyone. So I started my journey from NIFT Bhubaneswar. I completed my first year in NIFT Bhubaneswar. Then I got transferred to NIFT Bangalore in 2013. But the first year I enjoyed in NIFT Bhubaneswar, the culture, the food, and everything. People are very ground to earth, very kind to everyone. So whatever I learned from NIFT Bhubaneswar was very nice, and it is still with me. So while after shifting to Bangalore, I started working with some designers and some brands. That time I realized how people are using chemicals which are very harmful to nature and skin also. So that was the time I decided to work with nature friendly fabric or any textile. So when I think about nature friendly, I that time the khadi comes to my mind. Uh, for me, khadi is something like this is creating employment for many people, and it is helping our nature also. So when Gandhi, we know the Gandhiji's quote, "Be the change you want to see in the world." So I started wearing khadi. In 2018, I registered Somada Khadi. So what is Somada Khadi? Somada means someone who is complete. I guess if we are using anything which is eco-friendly, which is sustainable, which is organic, uh, that is something makes us complete. So the Somada is the perfect name for the organization. Somada also believes in woman empowerment, and it is run by women only. Um, we manufacture mostly saris, stoles, and fabrics, and the prints are also natural dyed, and it is done by the artisans only. So we work with different parts of India like Jaipur, then Andhra Pradesh. We do some kalamkari with Andhra Pradesh. Then Jaipur, we have good block prints also. In weaving thing, we work with South India, Kutch, then Maharashtra also, in Wardha, in Nasik itself. Then there are many parts we are working with weaving sectors. Um, when we, but after manufacturing all this, I feel the we are somewhere lack of awareness is there. Lack of awareness is it like this is the big issue I feel. What we are wearing, whatever we are wearing, is it sustainable? uh, when we wear khadi, that is made out of cotton or any silk, all natural fibers are biodegradable, and that is nature friendly. So and this is also not creating any pollution, and this is not creating any health issues also. India is manufacturing, India is the largest manufacturer of cotton. Yeah. So most of the cotton is exported to Indonesia, Japan, um, China, and one more is Bangladesh. So these countries are mixing the synthetic material to cotton and then creating any products. So instead of exporting, we can keep that cotton to our India, and we can create some products out of it, and then it can also help to create some employment also, and it will be good for our country also. So if handloom is not in if we are creating employment, then if not only handloom, there are many people are depend on handloom. Like carpenter is there. When we are doing the sizing process, so those sizing people are also there. So many people are depend on this handloom sector. I feel if we keep the handloom alive, then we don't need to go outside and create other work for others. So for me, like, let's go back to nature, I feel. Instead of going somewhere else and working for others, let's save this loom, save the nature. This is what I feel. Like birds, if we observe the birds are creating their own house. They are creating their own food also. So we are like birds only. So whenever uh, I feel about myself, that we should work for ourselves. We create our own clothes. We should make that should be made by hand, and let's save the looms. Let's save the nature. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Vishali. That was really, really insightful. Now we will be moving on to our next speaker. Uh, she is Ms. Vibha Agarwal. Talking about the brand Vipkala. As a brand, Vipkala envisions to promote sustainable fashion and home decor and constantly minimize waste. I invite Ms. Vibha Agarwal to speak of her experience as an entrepreneur.
Hi, Nick Bhuvneshwar. Hello, Gautam sir. To all the esteemed teachers, faculties from our Nick Bhuvneshwar. I'm really very thankful that you have invited me for such an great webinar. Like talking about handloom and stuff is like the favorite thing I'll be doing after passing out from this, like from textile department, I must say. And it's been a long journey of being an entrepreneur, but it started from my childhood, I must say, that I belong to a family business, like a kind of family. So we all have like our own businesses, but that didn't came to my mind like I have to start something of my own or something. But coming after New Bhubaneswar and exploring things and the textiles, our faculties, to give us many opportunities to work on different areas like the surface or the woven or with the application ones. So what I like is the handloom sector. So after NIFT, I got my job under the designer, Mr. Gaurang Shah, and that was kind of an inspiration, I must say, that he was the one who like put it in me like that. It was like he intrigued into me like you should do something which you love, and it should not be something you just follow for your family wants or people around you are expecting you to do. This is something you should do for your own. So working with Gaurang Shah was one of the main reasons I started my own business. So yeah, in 2018, I must say I started my Vipkala, but that was not the time I gave the name Vipkala. I gave it last year during the pandemic started. So there were plans which I have to drop because of the pandemic. So I started Vipkala during August last year, keeping in mind like this is the only thing I have to do right now, keeping the situations and things in hand, and I should do something on this with my funds available with me. So I started doing, like I started exploring the market here at first. So I went to the retail market. Sambalpur in Odisha is basically a retail market, if you see. It doesn't have a wholesale market or the weavers itself in here. There are nearby districts where weavers stay and they weave and they do stuff. But the retail market is in Sambalpur. So when I went to the retail market, the prices were quite high and which was not reasonable according to me. And also they were not sustainable enough to, be bought and, do something with it. So what I thought is going to the villages and try to talk with the weavers myself, which we did like during our college days also. So I went there with my father one day, and we started talking to the weavers and how it started, how they want to continue or not. Do they want to pass it to their children, or in the continue the things they are doing right now. So here in Western Odisha, I think the situation has kind of changed, like we saw in Maniaban, Mohapatnam. Here, people like the young generations, they are actually following their previous generations, and they are quite excited about it. They don't. It's not like they want to, they don't want to educate themselves, and they don't want to read something else. It's like they want to continue what their parents are doing, and they actually want to go with the market. They want to explore. They want to try new things, which people are or the market is demanding right now. So that was quite an easy thing for me to go with them. So I have particularly now like 4 or 5 families who are supporting me in my businesses. So it's like, we make our own products. It's fully cotton. Vipara is all about cotton products. We don't work in silk right now. So we create handmade products
Just a
dresses and
minute.
kurtas.
Bima, just
Yeah.
a minute, just a minute. Probably Kathy has texted that the meeting will end in 6 minutes. Please join again with the same
Okay.
link. So please be alert on it. And if it closes, then again you should join.
Swati,
same
can you
link.
try? Swati, can you try making Aparna as host? Probably that will not let the meeting to end.
Kathy, have you listened to Harsha ma'am?
Yes, sir. I have
Aparna Rastagi has now. I hope now the problem is solved. Thank you, Harsha. Please carry on.
Yeah. So I started Vipala with the aim to create different products which are already in the market. Something like not in sarees, not in dupattas, not in suit pieces, nothing which is already been going on since the generations and generations. And since Ambipuri fabrics are basically a traditional wears for all the time I have known by staying here. So I wanted to create something which people can adopt. Like even my family, even my friend circles who are not easy to wear this thing. So I wanted them to adopt, like this is very casual to wear. It's not something traditional or you can't wear something. So that is how I started, exploring things. And Vipala came to the point when my brother and me were sitting down and we were thinking about the name, what should we name your brand and stuff. So I was like, I should start something with my own name, but it should not be my name. So what should be the one? So we're holding a Hindi dictionary with that Vibha, Vipkala, and there is a word Vibhin. So that is kind of different, distinct. So that is how Vibkala came, like that, this different arts, different techniques, different crafts. So we are trying to explore things in our brand, there was one of the projects we did in college. I would like to, give credits to my friends for this. Like we created in one of our cluster projects, we did made sustainable mats. So that is how I started. I don't think my friends have an issue, but
there's a break, Eka.
No, I think just carry on, continue on.
Yeah. So I would like to give credits to my friends for making these things happen, and I'm happy that I could continue to this further and making all of them happy about this probably. So I'm making mats, sustainable mats, flow mats, and now into the dining mats we are making from those sustainable, like the leftover fabrics and threads which weavers leave in their homes, and they probably throw it somewhere or they use it to bind the machineries in their home probably. So we use those threads to minimize the wastage in our area, so that there should be things and products people could actually use. It's not something that should be kept in your home for years, and for an event you should just take it out. It's a very casual thing. I wanted it to be very casual all the time. So we make like dresses and stuffs to in a daily wear. It should not be like for something yearly basis or an event or things. So we are trying to keep it up with this. So one of the issues as an entrepreneur I am facing was about funding, definitely. So I have to keep in mind like it's a two-way decision. Like if you are doing something and you are not going to get success on that part, so you should have a backup. So I have to think a lot on that. And being a single founder of the brand, so I have to go through every pros and cons of the stuff so that I should not just um, make my business go down at any point of time. But since pandemic has started, it has been a great journey up and down. Like I'm trying my best to hold on to it. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Rupha. Now we'll be moving on to our next speaker.
To see my teachers here today, and also a few of my juniors. I can see the faces, and so glad to know that everyone is doing wonderful work in the craft sector. So talking about my entrepreneurial journey, it has been pretty exciting, interesting, and challenging, because I always knew that I wanted to have a design studio. But when I was a student, I studied bachelor's of fashion technology, and then I did my master's of fashion management. So within that span of 6 years of professional education, I exactly didn't know what kind of design studio I wanted to have. But I had this thing in my mind that I'm never going to do any corporate job, or I had total dislike towards academics. So I didn't want to go into academics as well. But it was my final year in masters when I got through a PPO by Madura Garments, and then I denied it and took the chance of sitting for campus placements, which I'm pretty sure that at that point of time it disappointed faculties and parents as well. But I was not at all interested to do that. And after getting through my campus placement, also I joined a consulting firm as a retail consultant, but that also didn't interest me. So that was the point that I decided, see, I have the dream of having a design studio, but why not now? So probably this is the time, and this is the indication that I shouldn't go for it. I resigned and I came back to Bhubaneswar. And while I was exploring the opportunities, or I was thinking about what to do next, I always have this observation of the women of my families having a huge collection of hand-woven textiles. And they have a great collection of handloom saris. So I see my mother, I see my grandmothers and other family members, and I was awestruck by that. And coming from Bargarh district in Odisha, which is the highest number of handloom clusters among all the handloom clusters in Odisha. So I kind of felt connected that I should go back, I should go back to my native and start looking for what I want to do. And I have always been a handloom and handicraft lover. So that's how, and meanwhile, I was writing a case study about Decathlon India with Satya sir, and I was preparing to present it in International Case Symposium. So within that span of time, I was very clear that, okay, handloom is something that I'm going to explore. And because it's my native, and I often come across those handloom artisans live when I visit my villages. So that's how I seriously started thinking about it. But then I also had many questions in my mind, that I used to see many people around me, mostly women, who used to be very handloom lovers and purchasers of saris. They used to buy and hoard in their wardrobe. But they used to have this complaint that every time we go to a retail shop like Boinika or Sambalpuri Vastralaya, who only cater to handloom saris, they do not find anything new. It is the same design that they have bought 2 years ago, and again they are finding the same thing in the retail store. And also, they were not happy with the color combinations available as the options. And I am personally a conscious environment, I'm very much environment conscious, that we should not waste a thing until we are forced to. So this learning I have learned, I have been given from my family from childhood. So that was the question I wanted to solve, that how can we get very chic, classy and contemporary everyday clothing in all hand woven natural fibers without wasting anything, textile waste. So that's how I started Rustic Hue. And if you ask me about the name, why the name Rustic Hue, and many people, trust me, they still cannot pronounce it properly. They get confused with the word hue. So there are a mixed breed of people who call it the way they can pronounce it. So rustic means a country side, which means villages, and hue means colors. So my idea is to add that rural flavor, add that the touch of hand woven artistic touch with unusual color combinations. So if you look at all the collections of Rustic Hue, they are very minimalistic and also not too bright, because apparently you will find most of the Odisha hand woven saris or yardages mostly in bright colors. So that has been developed with the artisan communities. They have got their instinct from the beginning. So when I started, my idea was that product development is the part that was very challenging to me, and I seriously thought that I had this urge of exploring the craft and community growth. That I spent a lot of time on learning their about the community closely, that whatever they do, why they do. See, wherever you travel all across India, more or less, the techniques are pretty similar. If you talk about ikat in general, Odisha primarily caters to two kinds of region. One is Western Odisha, they have Sambalpuri ikat, and one is your Eastern Odisha, where Nuapatna, Maniabhad you have. They are also practicing ikat, but they are similar in terms of techniques, but rest of the things are very different. If you talk about the motives, or they have their cultural inspiration, they have their different storyline. Even the dyes they use, they are completely different. But the same technique is being practiced in Gujarat also, in Andhra Pradesh, in Telangana. But they are all different in terms of their materials and storylines and dyes and color combinations, everything. So I spent a lot of time on understanding that even if we have so much similarities in the same state, then why do we distinguish them for the name they have? There must be some story, or there must be some kind of some history of origin to that. So I closely started knowing the community want to work with. I started to identify the skills they have. Not all the weavers are national awardees, that they will get so much artistic work, which would be pretty pricier in the market. But there are also weavers who work for those master weavers. So what are the challenges they are facing, and how can we exploit their talents? So that was the idea. And meanwhile, working with them, I understood what are the problems they were facing in terms of product development. So a very simple example: you go with a paper design to them, and they will be like, it can't be done. But the question is why it can't be done. There should be some limitations. Or is there any other way that probably we can work towards overcoming that limitation and pushing ourselves beyond our boundaries? So it took me a hell lot of amount of time to understand them, and also to make them understand that whatever you are doing, you have a horizon that you are not realizing it, and also give them idea about the market exposure, what all possibilities they have, whatever product they are creating. They have this fear that where we're gonna sell it, but you do not know that you have so many possibilities around you to sell your product. So you have to be fearless first for creating for taking the chance to create a product, and the market will follow itself. So for everything that you create, because of the community name you have, because you work together, you do not know that what possibilities could come to you, because people are waiting and looking for something new. So this is what, if you give them something new, then of course you are going to have a great chance of growing economically, in fact your product wise, or be it your talent wise, anything. So that was one part. And also my focus has been craft revival. So there is one particular sari that I am constantly reviving at this point of time, which is Bapta saris. The first Bapta sari that I had seen in my mother's closet, and that was a different sari which I had not seen anybody wearing that before. And the same sari I saw in my grandmother's closet also. But when I asked for the same sari in currently available retail stores, I didn't find them. Then how is it possible that one community that has been existing for the last so many decades, you were producing a sari and suddenly I don't find this in the market? So that's how I found the community, the family that was doing that, and gradually they stopped because of their reasons. And talking about this particular thing, I have developed a research paper which is going to be published in Springer this year. So when it is out, I'll be sharing with you all. You can read about this community which was in the verge of extinction, but how I was able to revive. All of them has been written as in this paper, which I'll be sharing once it is published. So that was a very challenging. It took me around 9 months to convince them that let's restart. And this time when we are revamping it, it should be something different from what you were doing before a decade ago. I mean, the sari was very popular until a decade ago, and suddenly it vanished. How is it possible? Or even if you find the sari in the market, they are not authentic. So probably, I'm pretty sure the women of previous generation or previous to previous generation, if you try asking about this sari, probably they might be knowing, but not in our generation. It is very popular. And the major thing that my objective has been waste minimization and waste management. So post-production waste management is something that we can very much easily handle it at the time of design stage in our studios or workshops, when we are sourcing or getting our raw materials, and then we are doing the finished garments. But I something realized that there are so many wastages at the loom level also. So the weavers are actually not aware of these things, that there is something called wastages, because they have always been conscious about how beautifully and artistically they produce the motives on a product, which gives them livelihood, for which they are known for. So their focus has always been how to get beautiful designs, rather than in the making of those beautiful designs, what all wastages they are making, they were not aware of. So in the pandemic, like all of you, I also struggled a lot, because there was a huge interruption in the entire supply chain that the looms were available, the artisans were available, but the raw materials were not reaching to them. But they did not realize they already had raw materials in their houses in terms of wastages. So what specifically with the ikat weavers, what happens is it's a technique where preconceived designs are made even before producing on the loom. So
Some technical glitch, Kathy?
hello.
Some technical glitch?
I think I disconnected.
Okay, please carry on.
Yeah, so I was saying that the weavers did not realize that they already have the raw materials they need. So what they do specifically, if we take an example of ikat technique, it's a technique where the pre-concept design is produced on loom after they have been tied and dyed. I mean, the yarns are prepared first and then they go on to the loom. So the weavers have this habit of keeping a buffer of extra amount of tied and dyed yarns with them. Just in case, if there is some defects on loom or they happen to not to get what the desired result, they could use the buffer yarns. But they are so skilled artistically and technically that the buffer never come into use, and they just remain as waste. And the weavers do not have this idea how to utilize them. So there I found my opportunity that they probably are wastages for them, but not for us who are going to be the end users. I mean, they are all in perfect condition. Just because it did not fit into the designs they had conceived doesn't mean that they cannot be used for some other design. So that's how waste management came into a very crucial part that I focused on and started utilizing them and producing them. So within these stories that I just told you about my work, but a lot of other challenges went behind into that. When I initially started, starting from mental, physical, emotional, financial, legal, there was challenges I have been through all these years. But all is well that ends well. So this is an indication that if you do not have any challenges in front of you, that means you are stagnant. You are not growing. So 5 years and counting. I am very hopeful that whatever focus and objectives every one of us has started respective ventures, that will definitely help not only the artisans or the communities that you are working with, but also yourself and the idea that you had started with. Thank you. I feel happy, Shraddha, clapping after everyone's speech. That's encouraging. Thanks,
No, it is.
Shraddha.
No, it is so good to come here and listen to the story. It's amazing. I really respect you all, and I could see this is the future for us. I mean, to let the communities grow and to let people see how much they they have the place in our our community and in our heart, and it's just amazing. And yeah, I'm really inspired. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Shraddha. I also follow your posts on LinkedIn. I mean, you are very active on that, and I also read whatever you post and write. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Vikriti and
thanks a lot.
Shraddha. That was really insightful. And so now we'll be moving on to our next speaker, who is Mr. Manas Ranjan Sahu. Mr. Manas Ranjan Sahu with Mr. Ravi Kumar founded Anki, which is a brand of Literal Designs Private Limited. Mr. Manas Ranjan Sahu is a pass out of Fashion and Lifestyle Accessory Department 2018, and the brand Anki focuses on uplifting, promoting, and sustaining Odisha handloom and handicraft. I invite him to speak.
Hello. Hello. Thanks a lot for inviting me to this beautiful session, sharing my experience, and would also enjoy this session, though I will be learning also from different entrepreneurs. I started my journey when I was in my college days itself. Like from my first year, I would like to say that few small stories inspired me to come up with this startup idea. During my first year, when I have joined NIFT, my own batchmates from different cities started complaining that Odisha don't have McDonald's, Odisha don't have KFC, and I literally remember when I was in my first year, KFC, the first franchisee of KFC started in 2014 at Bhubaneswar, and there was a huge chaos among Niftians that we will approach KFC and we will have something that we used to have in our own cities. So that somehow touched me, that I belong to Odisha, but still these people are complaining of my state, and does Odisha don't have that much of access to anything. Then second thing that what I have experienced is people study in NIFT Bhubaneswar and they go out of our state and for jobs, for job opportunities. So what if I create an opportunity for the upcoming designers here in Odisha? So that's what inspired. And the third story that is that how I have came up with my name, Anki, which literally means to draw. It is a Odia word. In our college days, we have weekends, Saturday, Sunday, we don't have college classes. So we used to visit different places like Puri, Konark, or sea beaches kind of thing. So during my visit to the road trip and all, the guy who is associated to me is also a Niftian from textile design department, a pass out from 2019. He's my junior, immediate junior, Ravi Kumar. His first visit to Puri has inspired me a lot to give that name Anki, because while on my road trip, there is a village which we crossed to go to Puri. That the village name is Malati Patapur, and it was during December when it is called as the Hindu calendar name is Margasira Masa, which is a very kind of very ritual thing. We worship goddess Lakshmi, and we used to have our motifs like they're called Jhoti or the Alpana in Bengali. And from there, Ravi, though he belongs to Bihar, he asked me like what all these motifs are. I incorporated in my class assignments, though faculties asked us to motifs in textile designing. So I told that this is Jhoti, and somehow a lady there, he pronounced the word Anki, that I'm a Jhoti Ankichu. Anki meant to draw. And this was in 2017 when I have heard this, though I'm Odia, I know this word, but in Hindi we tell this name, naam Ankit karna. So from there, I took this word name as Anki, and I gave it my brand name. I gave Anki in 2019. So in 2019, January 15th, I incorporated my company as Littoral Designs Private Limited, under which this Anki brand comes. And we basically deals with handloom and handicraft. Though I'm an accessory designer, I was having very lame kind of knowledge in textile. I was lacking that knowledge kind of thing. But he helped me to learn a lot, though he had done his graduation project from Maniaband. Now coming on to developing products of our brand, there are few challenges, of course, because working with artisans is not that easy. Not even convincing them to come up with something different, they generally don't agree to it. So it so happened that when Ravi was in his graduation project, he was there for at least 6 months in Maniaband. Though he is from Bihar and he don't know the local language, still he managed to stay there, managed to eat the Odia cuisines and everything that what they have, the literally the typical Odia food, this the pokhara and all. They started, he started loving it. Slowly and gradually he developed the faith among them that yes, I can be I'm a part of you, and I can be a really a resource for you to give orders or kind of thing, to develop something new, to show you something different out of what market already has. So that what from the graduation project it started. And being a accessory designer, I was dealing with wood, stone carving, and silver filigree, and those fiber weavings like golden grass and all. But gradually I got to know that products consumes much time that textile. If I compare, because product has many phases to complete. Like if I'm working with if I'm working with wood, needs proper sanding, polishing, grinding, everything. After that, we at least it takes much of time. But what if we go to a textile cluster, and even if we don't design, but we can procure and we can develop a thing out of a product out of it, then it will generally generate revenue for us. The challenge that what we faced is generating revenue, and for generating revenue we need fund. So that what we also faced for our first first initial phase of our startup. Then with those products that we have developed in our college days only, we started our brand. Whatever I have developed in my class assignments, whatever Ravi had developed in his class assignments, we have clubbed all together, accumulated everything, and we came up with different product lines. So now coming on to the problems that we faced in textile. So far, this is for textile handloom week and all. So the minimum meter of fabric that we develop, asking an artisan to develop was very challenging, because they have a fixed minimum meter of fabric they can develop. To whatever designs we give, they say that minimum you have to take 10 saris or a 10 meter of fabric. What if we don't have that much, and we need to have varieties of product in terms of color, in terms of size, in terms of fabric, whether it is cotton, silk, tussar kind of thing. So it varies, and there we lagged for fund. So of course, entrepreneurial journey has this drawbacks as well for fund, raising fund, developing products, debts, and everything. Everything had to be taken care of with proper planning. What I have thought of, like we all are in our 3rd year right now, and pandemic have really hampered a lot for us. But slowly and gradually we are making our business to come up at least. Now designing, so accessory designer, so I'm developing silver filigree rakhis, which I'm selling it, and it had a great market response till date. And I hope till 22nd of August we will be achieving our minimum goal of products that we will be selling to. And the other problem that I have also faced in handloom is the dye. There are 2 types of dye that Maniaband and Nuapatna are dealing with. One is naphthol and the other one is VAT. VAT is little costlier, for which which doesn't bleed if on our like we if we wash it, or kind of it goes through many processes of washing and all, but it doesn't bleed in VAT. But in naphthol it bleeds, so there is a little bad reviews for our product. Then we gradually got to know that there are different dyes which weavers deal with. So in that case, the minimum meter which we order from weavers, they usually charge a lot, and in terms of bulk orders, it really it costs a lot for us. So there what we find are difficulties. Slowly and steadily we are trying hard to come up, though we are also got registered in our Startup Odisha scheme, but we haven't yet fetched the monetary benefit from the government, because they have certain criterias which we are not fulfilling right now, but we hope we will be achieving that as well in our near future. And other things that what we are facing in handloom is the GST problem. The GST problem is because the weavers, they don't have GST numbers. So as an entrepreneur, we have GST, but when we are not able to purchase it from GST, then how will I be selling it in GST? That was the problem that we were facing. And even collecting monies and generating a good amount of GST from customers and not purchasing it from GST and collecting it in our current account actually puts a lot of questions from our CA. Like they put questions like, if you haven't sold it in GST, then how are you collecting it in collecting GST from customers? So these all are the problems that we face. And the entrepreneurs, the weaver entrepreneurs, they are already having the GST. If they sell, they have a different kind of attitude towards us, because they think that if you will be selling it in GST, then of course the guy or the designer will be adding what percentage of his benefit to it, and what amount he will be selling a sari to his customers. They start permutating and combining these things, these kind of things they follow. And if our attitude and our, as a designer, whenever we visit cluster, our attitude, our attire plays a great role in like developing, talking with them, because they think if we are in our car, or if we are with our glasses on our face, or kind of very lavishing jewelries on all, they think that this is the right person from which we can generate our source of income or livelihood. But that what I really don't appreciate, because we have to be like them if we are going to for our developing products. These are the few things that we are looking to come up with. Let's hope for the best, and that's it, what I will be sharing my views with all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just followed Shraddha. Shraddha is doing a very good gesture. But,
they do deserve it. They deserve it much more than anything. I mean,
actually, I missed for the other three.
Sir, another thing that I would like to, yes, sir, I'm sorry to interrupt. Another thing I would like to make it prominent here is also that here in Odisha, people are less aware of the types of fabric or the types of textiles we have. Even if I procure or design anything from Maniabandh or Nuapatna, people generally think it is Sambalpuri. It is not, but there is lack of awareness that we need to create among people. Being a dancer as well, as a classical dancer also, we generally use Khandua, the Maniabandha Patta, as our costume. But though the dancers are also less aware of the fabric they are using, so they think the Bomkai is also the same thing what Maniabandha or Sambalpuri Ikat is. But even Barampur is also referred as the silk city of Odisha, but still we call it as Sambalpuri sari. So this is the awareness where we are lacking with to come up also with a few awareness among the people. So this is what I think. If my own approach can make at least few people get to know that types of fabric. Even is another cluster in what Jagat Singhpur, which is called Pindhaluga. They also follow this technique of tie-dye, this ikat technique, but still people call it as Sambalpuri. Even now also people come to us to purchase saris or yardages, everything, they call it Sambalpuri. This is what I don't want actually. I really want them to know that Sambalpuri is different, Maniyabandha is different, Vichitrapuri is different, Posapalli is different. There are variety of fabrics here in Odisha, which we need to make them aware. So I hope as a designer, I will be able to achieve that.
Even I would like to add that like Sambalpuri is not actually Sambalpuri. Even in Western Odisha, we have different kind of Sambalpuri fabrics. Like if you know Bombai, Bafta, here also they have varieties. So I would really love, Manas' suggestion to go on forever, and even NIFT is helping out us a lot. So for other students who are like continuing their studies, it could be a great, like if they could consider different textiles of Odisha in different ways. So yeah.
So before moving forward, I would like to announce open session for questions. But after listening you all, Pranav, Vaishali, Vibha, Shrukirti and Manas, I can say there are very good lines. कि गिरते हैं से सवार ही मैदान जंग में वो तिफल क्या गिरेंगे जो खुद घुटनों के बल चले. So you guys are doing really well, and we are very happy being a part of NIFT ki that our alumni are doing really very great, doing very great in their journey, and they are keep trying. So now I would like to request those who are here, and if you guys have any question or anything you want to know about their ventures, or if you want to know about the products, so please go ahead.
I would like to add, please guys, please do ask questions, be curious to know. Like that was the mistake I did during my college days. So I must suggest everyone, if you have any pinch of doubt about this field, then you should ask, whether we know it or not, but you should ask, whether do participate in this, like please.
Vibha, it feels so good to hear this from you. It looks like the tables have just turned on. And we are on the other side of the table, and you are just speaking our mind, what we used to do in the class.
Right. Absolutely right.
Yes. That was kind of true. Like we were so shy to, ask, and we were like living our teenage lives during the college days. We didn't know what to do in future. It was just going on. Like we are taking things very casual. I must, like, I was personally taking things very casual. What mattered to me was like the get kind of good graduation project, do it like doing all the assignments in time probably, and whatever we were only looking for the next step, not for the future or the vision after college or something. So that is now I'm understanding like what life is now and what life it was in during college. So yeah.
I think meanwhile anyone asks any question, I just want to say, Vibha, that I'm so proud because I think we did the graduation project together in Manyavan, and then I'm just so happy that you actually took it, in a level that you're trying to make it real.
Kathy, I think.
Yes, sir.
We have a question from Miss Swikriti that in case we want to revive any craft work, how to start it, as in what should be the initial steps?
Thank you for the question, Arpita. So, craft revival is not something that I mean, you will be coming with the idea that you want to revive one craft. It's just that you need to identify first what is the craft that was existing earlier, and gradually you are not seeing them commercially or their commercial existence or with anyone popularly. So you need to find out which all crafts that you have come across and you are not seeing them uh, massively these days. So first identify the craft, then know about the artisans or craftsmen who all have been included in developing those craft forms. You need to identify the craft, then the people who are working behind those craft. You need to know the community behind them. You need to figure out if they have stopped doing it, then what was the reasons for which it compelled them to stop doing that. If they are not practicing those ancestral craft forms right now, then what else they are doing right now? I mean, if you see handloom or handicraft, these all are ancestral professions of the specific community. It's a community work. So if you visit a village or some locality, all of them, all the homes, you will find the same work they are practicing. So you need to identify what is it, who all are engaged behind that. If they are not doing practicing the craft form right now, what they have switched to, what are the reasons that compel them to switch to some other form or some other profession or whatever the reasons could be. And then if you want to now starts the process of reviving that, you need to speak to them that for the reasons that they left doing it, if you can bring the community back to work on the same thing again. And also you can check ways in which if you can modify it while developing some better version of or some extended version of the existing craft. So if you are asking me about the process or the steps, it's just that you need to identify the craft, the people behind the craft, the reasons for which they stop doing it, and then those will lead out to the ways by which you can restart it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good morning. I have a question for Ms. Swikriti. May I?
Yes, please.
Yes. Actually, I'm Dr. Manisha Chutrai. I'm completely, an outsider over here. I belong to the department of, and I work at Pala Maharaja Engineering College at Parampur. Actually, recently I have been, kind of out of my personal interest, researching on the Parampuri silk. As you must be aware, I actually, along with my students, did a short documentary on it in order to, kind of popularize and to make people, even people of Parampur, aware of this silk. So my question to Ms. Swikriti is, it is a very common thing that the age-old, colors and those patterns and motifs are still being followed, though they make for that reason only the products are very, very popular. But it's high time you need to, you need designing intervention over there in order to make it more and more appealing to the, the customers. So their demand is something new. They need variety in terms of color, in terms of designing and everything, and how to make it again affordable for everyone, making it or bringing it to the reach of the common customers. So my question is for Ms. Sukriti.
Thank you, Dr. Manisha, for joining the webinar today and for the questions that you asked. First question I'd like to address what you asked about new and fresh designs. So I would like to say here, there are many things. There's a debate actually going on all across the world between cultural sustainability, cultural appropriation. So when we are actually working with the local communities that has the existence more than 100 years, 200 years, so when you're working with those kind of communities which have been trained and skilled and they have got the identity because of the work they do, and also they have some kind of cultural significance to all. If we come look at the specific motifs that they use or techniques, if we take the example of your Barampuri silk sarees, actually Foda Kumbha, the kumbhas that they do, they have been very popular, and you can say that was the place of origin of that technique, and the rest of the few places and other clusters in Odisha, they started doing that. The Foda Kumbha technique was popular in Barampur first, and different clusters, different communities, they are actually known for what they do. So if people, we totally understand that if somebody is owning one piece or two pieces of one variety of handloom textile or sari or product, naturally they would look for something different or more next time when they are going to purchase. Because anyway, the shelf life of these products are at least 2 decades, and you can treasure them up to 4 or 5 decades also. So, but it becomes very tricky when you are working with the weavers communities. The shift would be gradual and it would be slow. It won't be rapid that one day you wake up as a designer, trained designer, and you go and work and try to convince them to work on some new design, which is completely beyond their boundaries, which they have never seen before or thought before. So it becomes a gradual thing that you learn and understand what they do and why they do. And also you need, because coming from an outside or professional trained process, and you are a trained professional, you also need to make them aware what is happening currently, what they were doing some 2-3 decades ago, how there has been an evolution in terms of market and products and what the consumers do. So this is the responsibility probably of the designers and also the government partially, because it is not only one person's job to make them aware of what is happening around. It is a collective effort of all the consumers also. And to come to the second question, that how can we make them affordable? So affordability here for handloom products, I would say that it directly represents the quality of work. So it is not that something is high quality or low quality for the prices they are paying, but it is probably the right price for the right quality. So if you are getting a product which is cheaper, doesn't mean that it is bad in quality. And if you are buying a luxury product or high-end product and you are paying a high price, it is a very good quality. So prices and qualities are very sensitive. And when we are talking of a price point, it indicates the right quality for that price of the product. So if we take again the example of your Barampur silk sarees, I'm pretty sure community that is engaged, I think the Patra community, they are engaged in weaving those Barampuri silk sarees.
Yes, the Deras, basically.
Deras.
Deras
Yes.
from South India.
Yes. So one Barampuri silk sarees probably it must have traveled through the touch of 5 to 6 pairs of human hands for different stages of for the processing and weaving and to get the one end product. So when you are buying a sari, preparation of the yarns, it is done by one person. Then tying and dyeing of yarns, it is done by another person. Then finally, probably sometimes the dyeing is done by another person. So already you have involved 3 humans. And then untying of knots, that is done by some mostly no skilled in the family of the weaver's family. That is done by another person. And finally, when it goes to the loom with the setting of the yarns in the proper arrangement. If it is Koda Kumbh, which is practiced in Barampuri silk, production of Barampuri silk,
Yes.
two
Yes,
people will
but
take
in
that. So you can imagine.
yes,
imagine
here
how
in
much,
Barampur, yes, dyeing and everything they do it themselves. They themselves do it.
yeah,
The
themselves
whole
do it,
process they are just yes.
but
But again, they complain that they are not properly remunerated.
I, there are some standard, fixed remuneration is there. A standard remuneration is there for each process, each part, each stage of the work. Uh, Maybe it could be. I mean, I got to know from you that's their complaint. But the communities that I work in Western Odisha, we have a standard standard remuneration. That if you are doing this much of work, the pay is this much. So according to your skills and according to the kind of work you are doing currently, you would be remunerated for that, and that is very much standard, and it is practiced among the entire community across different villages in one district or two districts or 3, 4 districts. So I don't think, I mean, it is all true for all the clusters or all the communities. But when if you are asking our consumers' point of view that it is very pricey, so these are the reasons for which naturally the prices will be that which you are paying for, because one saree will be made by 5, 6 people, and then there are other costs involved.
Yes,
So,
yes,
thank
absolutely.
you.
No, what I was suggesting is just a minute. Just let me.
Yeah, sure.
What I was suggesting, like Mr. Manas was telling, if we can, design accessories. So accessories made out of silk, maybe. So those may become affordable for everyone, like anyone, whoever visits, maybe Barampur or come over, any place. This the same thing can be done, like in Western Odisha, starting from dupattas to clutch to everything. So that's what I was suggesting. Okay, thank you so much, and I would love to visit your studio someday. Thank you, Mr.
Yeah,
Priti.
sure. In fact, you can please browse through the website as well. You would get to hear about our story, and also I think you would like to browse through all the different product segments that we have. But there are different audiences that expect, and they have different demands for different kinds of products. So suggesting for accessories is a very good idea. What Manas is doing is great, and we also are doing silk and cotton accessories out of all leftover fabrics. But that is something that adds complement to your whole wardrobe, your whole look. So there are different consumer markets for accessories. There are different consumer markets for clothing. So
So thank you so much, ma'am, and thank you. Sorry for the interruption. This is like time limit, so that is why I am interrupting right here. So thank you so much, ma'am, and thank you so much, Vikirti, for a wonderful, question and answer session. And so for moving forward, I would like to invite Kathy to present her research paper. And the topic is Odisha handloom and social media promotion, a study of digital transformation of marketing. So, Kathy, over to you.
Thank you so much. I would like to thank all my faculties for providing me with this opportunity. I'll try to keep it really short. So, this is a paper which I wrote in my semester 4 for our design research subject, and it has to be craft based. So honestly, I did not find that to be a restriction, because this is something, handlooms and handicrafts of Odisha has been something very intriguing to me. So this is a paper which is published in Management Dynamics in Digitization Era, which is an edited book published by Maharaja Agrasen University publication, and my co-authors were Ishan Aditya and Dr. Sonali Srivastava, who is assistant professor in the Department of Fashion Communication. So the aim of the paper was to find out how is Instagram impacting the Odisha handloom promotion. So this paper was written in 2020, from the span of January till April. So all the data and everything that was collected was back then. And the methodology which I followed was, I made a questionnaire and I circulated it among all the Niftians and basically NIF Bhubaneswar people, my juniors, my seniors, so that, and the questions were pretty basic. If they know pages who are selling Odisha handloom, if they know pages who are promoting Odisha handloom. Now the thing is, this digitization has come a lot after the pandemic has started, but this was also something which is prevalent back then. And then I analyzed the questionnaire, and then I conducted a lot of interviews. I talked to a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of designers, a lot of people, businessmen and women who are selling handloom, who are promoting handloom on Odisha, on Instagram. So I talked to them, I conducted interviews, semi-structured interviews, and then I analyzed the data which I got. And so yeah, these are some of the basic numbers which I found from my research. It says that 74% of people used Instagram to keep up with brands and celebrities, and 88% people said that they have come across at least one Instagram page which is promoting Odisha handloom. So the thing is, the sample was basically student of NIF Bhubaneswar, and the paper was mostly on regional marketing. So yeah, that is it. So these are some of the more statistics that, as I told, 88% people said that they have come across at least one page promoting Instagram handlooms, promoting Odisha handlooms on Instagram. And yeah, that is it. And then 57% of people said that they have shared, commented, liked on any content related to Odisha handloom, and 52% people said that they know someone who is actively promoting Odisha handlooms on Instagram. So yeah, the conclusion was very positive. The conclusion was what I was kind of expecting. So yeah, okay, so the conclusion was, most of them have actually commented, shared, liked content related to Odisha handloom, and they know someone who has done. And I thereby prove that Instagram have had a positive impact on promotion of Odisha handloom through Instagram. So yeah, this was my paper about, actually the paper was about 4,000 to 5,000 words long. So I am not showing that paper here. It is already published. So this is a basic, this is a brief presentation about my paper. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kathy. So is there any question or anything if you guys want to ask from Kathy?
I have a question to Kathy.
Yeah, please.
Kathy, where can I read your paper? Which
Yes,
is published?
yes. I'll share the link with you, and I'll also share the book in which it has been published.
Yes, I would love to see the detailed paper on how Instagram is impacting the.
Yeah, sure. I'll share it with you. Thank
I'm
you so much.
interested to know the hypothesis. So please share with me also.
Okay, okay. I'll share it with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I would like to invite Saha sir for vote of thanks.
It's a nice experience. Rather, I may tell it is just like I find it's just like 5 years before my old classrooms, by the old students, but suddenly what Harsha has told, that is the role has been reversed. Suddenly we become teacher, and Bibha, Shikriti, Brushali, Manas, Pranab, they become our teachers. Very, very exciting. Today I posted it, when students become teacher, it's really a value adding, a very rewarding experience for a teacher. So thank you very much. And Khyati's research is also very, very relevant, how Insta is helping the handloom or the sectors. So thank you. And people came from different, sphere of the life. They contributed. I saw Mr. Sachin Dhakare's message. Thank you, sir. It's a wonderful message, that yes, that is the need of the hour. If we can make the total value chain organic or transparent. And we actually, Harsha did a paper on this, on a transparent value chain. So that is an important paper we may share. And another, everybody told about community. Community is a very, very interesting subjects now. And I just want to mention two catchline. One is, if you think the history of world economy, now we depended too much on market. One, second one is government. But historical speaking, we have another thing that was a community. Community was the producer, community was the consumer. So that part is missing in the community, the third leg. That was Raghuram Rajan has told in a very recent book, The Third Pillar, which he referred community. Everybody is telling about the community. So how we can, I think one of my colleagues, Lipsha, ma'am, also researched on community and artisans for a couple of years. So this is an important takeaway for only just before finishing. I'm just trying to give you two ideas. One is, see, if we can build community in our hometown or in our through webs or through physically. For example, if somebody is Brushali or Bibha, they are, Manas, they are producing something handloom and handicraft. If somebody is producing some organic food, if somebody is producing some or health, healthy, something health related medicines, obviously natural or Ayurveda, as somebody providing some education, that which is very low cost but very positive, suppose teaching digital marketing locally. So they can all this produce, that is health, education, roti, kapra, mokan. ये 5 जो segments है, if we can make a producers community and which will not cannibalistic, because एक दूसरे का customer नहीं खाएगा, ऐसा कोई community, producers community, and we have a thousands of consumers community who believe in these producers and they would like to purchase from this community. So this network, if you see the 400 or 500 years before, we have this sort of communities. But after the economic development, we depended on market and government and market. Now it is a high time if we can again make it the community things happen. Now community is not only on physical. I think what Khyati has told, it can make it a global. Suppose Shraddha may be sitting in London, but Shraddha is very, very committed to buy Nuwa Patna fabric. So Shraddha can depend on Manas for something. And in this way, all this, these 5 entrepreneurs can build the 5 big communities. And they can, in this way, they can survive and they can flourish. 2 things important, what Shikriti told, that is trust. I think Manas also told, trust and transparency. Trust is very important. If you are in the clusters and if you are in the consumers community, you have to be genuine with your produce. with your profit, with your communication. So if you can build that trust by couple of years, so it is very much possible. And second one is the transparency. Manoj argued that everybody is skeptic that how much artisans is taking profit, how much entrepreneur is taking profit. If we can make that thing also very transparent for the consumers, artisans is getting this percent of profit, entrepreneur is getting this percent of profit. So consumers, they may not have the problem because they know what is happening. We have this sort of forms physically in accepted and done by Living Farm in Munigura district. Physically, they have done it. So if we can replicate in bigger fashion through community. So this is the two things I would like to share. And lastly, we have huge number of students sitting online. They are teaching through online. If these entrepreneurs can, and artisans may not have the jobs at present now. If you can be a mediator so that our kids, these urban kids, they do not know what is craft, their craft of exposures. If through Insta, through the different mobile network system, if artisans can teach those urban kids through your networking skill, that can be very good for the artisans and for you also. In this way, the conversation will start with the urban consumers, entrepreneurs, and the artisans. So these are some few ideas. Thank you very much again to all the participants, and on behalf of NIFT, and I thank you my team that who are doing it, that SDAC Sonali, ex-SDAC Lipsha, Harsha. These three people have done it primarily, and all the students who have done a lot of back-end jobs. So thank you very much. Thank you the administration NIFT. They have given the opportunity to share do that thing. Thank you all. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So I would like to express our profound gratitude to Professor Jenna. I think sir is not here right now. And Gautam Saha sir for his presence in this webinar. And I'm so happy to express my thanks to our seniors, faculty members, and my colleagues who made this webinar really successful. So finally, the wonderful students who have turned up in such a great number, but there are some interruptions. Still, we have good number. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for being a part of this webinar.